and authentic about everything.
Vijay, I think authenticity is something that was the first thing that I observed whenever I first saw you. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of places where your name was basically coming along, saying what you should meet Vijay. And the first time I met you, I think was in a Kochare webinar, and after that I pinged you or something. That was the first thing. And after that, all of our conversations have always been the most natural, most authentic, most naturally free flowing conversations. And to share that with all of us, so I haven't shared any questions as to what I'll be asking Vijay. So this is a fully level playing field. So
Yeah, in the
no,
hot seat as I'm
yes,
feeling. So I said, okay, let me get myself a hot cup of coffee to accompany. So yeah.
awesome. So good to see you, Vijay. Good to hear from you, and it's always a joy to have you.
Yeah, yeah.
Your energy and your presence is just amazing. And so just to add to this flavor of the tribe of coaches completing a year. So it just started. Thank you. It started as a simple idea, and I was not really game for it. I said I've built communities before. I don't want to do it in coaching was my initial thought way back in August last year. But then a series of events led me to start this one. And the first week we had 15 to 20 coaches saying, Sunil, whatever you do, we are here with you. And that's slowly grown to a space of around 160 almost coaches right now. So in and out, many of them have come, jumped in. So we have brought about people, and people have brought themselves into the entire tribe. So for me, it's a very proud moment to have started this and see that as a movement rise. And to have you, Vijay, it's a fantastic honor, and it's a joy like no other. And yeah, thank you and welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Like we do with coaching, right? Setting the stage is very important. And the first thing I'm noticing around is a lot of familiar faces, friends in the room, coaches I've worked with, and of course, a few not so familiar faces. And I think a few of you connected on LinkedIn and otherwise. So I've just realized that the coaching world is actually well, it's a small world, though, I think at the last count, there are more than 1 lakh plus coach practitioners. And yet, I don't know, it just seems like a small world. So that's really what I'm observing at this moment. But yeah, since we are a small group, I think less than 20 of us here right now, maybe people may join in. But either way, we can certainly keep it conversational. We can, why don't I suggest that in the next 1 hour? Fire away whatever questions you may have or even thoughts that you want to share, and let's co-create learning today. I think there's a great opportunity of smaller groups. And of course, Sunil, you being the sutradhar of this, you're absolutely free to ask whatever you want. I've really not come prepared with much, except that I've been thinking a little bit about this question playing on my mind, right? Because you've used the word tribe of coaches, and I think the word tribe is a very powerful word that connects very well, right? And
Absolutely.
the thought that was playing in my mind is choose your tribe carefully. I don't know why that thought went, but that's really what my contexting thought is. And I would love for everyone to know. I want to know a little bit also about, what kind of a tribe is the tribe of coaches, and and maybe we can talk a little bit about that either now or at some point in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I will not talk about it because I want anybody else to just jump in and share their experiences. So I've been receiving a lot of messages on the WhatsApp, and there are a few that are missing from the usual gang. So some of them have said Saturday I will not be joining in. So yeah, there have been a lot of very interesting people that I have met, and like you said, the aspect of uh, choosing the tribe carefully. So I have been an Ekalavya coach in a lot of many conversations, right? So I've been in that sort of a space where I wanted to find a tribe. And to a certain extent, I found it in certain spaces in certain sectors. And so that's where the story of the tribe also sort of began saying. for a very long time, I was part of a community of poets called the Tribe of Poets. And then
Hmm.
we sort of, life happened and I was out of Instagram. And then when I had to bring the tribe was something that was on my mind for a very long time, something to do with the tribe has to come along. And that's how it became a natural aspect, saying the tribe of coaches will be the way it should look like. And more than coaches, I think I met people first and then they also happen to be coaches. Right? So
Yeah.
that way it's been for me, I've had a conversation with every one of the 169, 159 that are now part of the tribe. Uh, I don't know why they chose the tribe. You'll have to ask them. But I chose them because they were the most authentic, most amazing set of people that were on the journey so far. An amazing set of conversations, an amazing set of people.
Got
Uh,
it.
Asha, Govind, and then DC. So many of them. I think we've had some great conversations. So I'd like to ask them. Maybe I don't know. Govind is driving. So Govind, if you're listening, I'm putting you on a spot, saying what's been your journey. I think Govind came to the tribe post the ICW meet. So we had. I was hosting about 13 sessions in the
Yeah,
ICW.
marathon your ICW, right? Hmm.
Yes, yes. So he came in. Asha is from the Netherlands. She came in because of a friend, Shanmuga Priya introduced. So it's been that one after the other. People have joined in. They've jumped in. And also on the same place, there are two reasons where I always subscribe. One is that uh, because I got it, I also want to give it to the rest of the people. And also because I didn't get it and I had to really struggle to get there. I want to make sure that the rest of the people who are on their journey to coaching and coaching excellence do not
Hmm.
have to go through the same struggles I went through. So that's what keeps me going in this entire journey, to reinvent, re-trigger something or the other. And yeah, it adds value to my life. It makes it a satisfying day at the end of the day to say what the tribe's all about. But yeah, I think I have spoken enough. Maybe I will check in with somebody, and put them on the spot and say, what's been their experience. When Jyote, you want to share something? You've been here for, I think, last two plus months.
No worries. Let's move ahead and maybe we can come back to this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
just sort of reading the room. What's in everyone's mind? What should we be talking about?
I have a question, but I'll hold on to mine.
I'm seeing something in the chat box. Oh, okay,
How to
that's
join
lovely.
the tribe? Yeah, Seema, I'll let you know.
I can add
So,
something to the
yes,
question.
Satyam.
Hi,
Yeah,
Satyam, and thank you for that very kind message. I just saw that.
you're always welcome, and I mean it
Yeah.
all really. Thank you. So maybe one of the things that would be interesting to hear from you, Viji, would be for the newbies in the coaching space. What's a good way to approach not just brand building, but approach the craft and approach a niche at some point in time? And how does one really take on that road? That's something which I'll be interested to hear
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, that's like quite 10,000 feet. I think we can speak for hours together. I'm seeing some thumbs up as well. But let's definitely talk about it because I think that's a very important topic. And whenever I go into coach spaces, usually the first thing would be, saying how does one sort of build the journey, right? And coaching is a journey. I don't think there's any coach out there who would ever say that I've arrived. And I think that's not a point one should aspire for either, because the kind of growth and evolution that comes, every time you learn something, I think is very integral to what builds us also as coaches. Because at the end of the day, we are supporting others with their journey. So very happy for us to chat about that. And maybe we'll start with that, Sunil. I know you asked about my coaching journey, but
It was also a request from I just so somebody sent it on personal message.
aha,
So
okay, okay.
I have a few questions with you. I think I'll come to that, but you I think branding was something that I also wanted to start. Thanks
Yeah,
Satyam for
yeah,
asking that.
yeah, yeah. So you know what? I want to make this statement. And in fact, I was halfway through writing something which didn't see the light of day. But I put it out here. Right? I mean, this is just like a small community of us. I know it's being recorded, and that's fine. I was actually thinking of something very different when, I mean, something quite tangential, quite counterintuitive. And, hear me out fully before you, I think, well, the judging goes on in your head, perhaps. Um, I would say, maybe even for the first 1 year of actually, when you declare to the world that, hey, I'm in business and I'm open, I would actually say don't market.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't market, don't think brand. And there are a couple of reasons I will say this. Okay, it's very difficult for you to go out there and put a meaningful proposition before you actually figure out as to what you want and who you are. And I can tell you this out of experience and even otherwise, with all the coaches that I mentor. The first 1 year, perhaps, after you finished, and let's assume, yeah, credential is the start point. Okay. Could even look at that start point when you finished coach training. You've just picked up one part of the craft. And I love the way you've used the word craft, Satyam, because this is a craft. And you're figuring out, you're getting your bearings right. You're not sure of yourself, you're not sure of your own values, you're not sure of what you actually bring, how this whole thing evolves. We are trained in coach training, and correct me if any of you have a different experience, not to support clients through journeys. Yeah, all of the focus of coaching training is on skill and competency imparting, and very much in the context of a session. And one of the biggest learnings as practicing coaches, and I'm assuming there are a few of you here on this call, is that there's so much more than that one session. A coaching engagement is not 1 + 1 + 1, and then you add up those 10 sessions. It's just a lot more that's happening. And we are not trained to take that on. Yeah. So when you come out, and I'm not here trying to critique the models of coach training, assuming that's what it is, then you need to give yourself, it's almost like, okay, let me put it this way, right? If you look at medicine, there's a compulsory year of residency that you go through, even before you can call yourself, right? I mean, anything. I don't think that's there in coaching. I read somewhere recently, someone saying that the day you begin training, start marketing your services. And, a huge red light went off in my head saying, market and do what? You're not even figured out what this whole thing is about. What are we going to market? So the reason I said that 1 year, and one could be two, one could be half, that's all depends, is that you need that time to figure yourself. The other thing that I'm noticing is a lot of people do this whole marketing branding thing not right, and actually, feel so disappointed that they just stay away from it forever. We don't want that. You don't have to get it right the first time. Nobody, I mean, very few people get it right the first time, right? I mean, and even with branding, brands are evolving. So, your strategy changes, everything changes. But it's not, you don't want to get it so wrong that you don't want to try again. So I would say, actually stay off from, do your stuff, quietly do your stuff, do what you have to, build yourself inside out. And that building yourself inside out will happen forever. Right. So it's a no point that, yeah, okay, now I'm ready and I'll market. That's not what I'm saying, but give it some time. Give it some time till you actually figure out some basic nuts and bolts. For example, when your clients come and ask you, the first question they will ask you is, okay, now please tell me the kind of clients you worked with, right? Typical customer question. What answer would you give? Or for example, what is your preferred style? Yeah. Do you have a style at all to answer that? So these are the follow-on brand questions. It's easy for anyone to dish out a website, a page, and, do Instagram and, a ton of LinkedIn videos and everything. But do you really, really have stuff to put out there authentically? So this has been one big learning and also part of my own journey. And I'm not saying that I got this right. I mean, it's, someone taught me or, I figured this out and I'm saying this. It was through experience. For a long time, I would actually shy away from the marketing because I was just not sure or convinced that I was able to pitch myself out there authentically. So I think having that clarity on who you are to some extent, to know what your pitch is, to know what you're offering, to know what your style somewhat is, to know what your values are as a coach, not necessarily as a human being. I think these are very important. And if that takes 2 years, so be it. I mean, we have a long career ahead of us for most coaches, right? And to that extent, coaching does not have a shelf life. So we're in a great profession. There's no retirement age really till we choose to hang up our boots. So I would say that, Satyam. So that's just something that's been playing on my mind, saying, do we market too early? Do we put ourselves out there too early? And I know this whole ROI thing, right? I once had a coach who asked me straight, saying, "Hey, have you made your ROI for all the money that you invested?" Good question. Yeah, but I don't think the answer is that straightforward. It all depends on what you're defining as ROI. And even to be able to do that, I think you need to have the clarity. So whatever time it takes to build your clarity, do that. But do not stop coaching, right? In early stages, I would say coach at least one conversation, a day. Right? You build yourself in such a beautiful way that nothing else can build you. So I would say that, Satyam. That's just a context. I know you asked me a couple of other questions, but does this connect? Is this disconnecting? Is this sounding like, oh my God, what are you saying? And for you and for everyone else. Yeah.
It's very saying. Just a follow-up question, if I may.
Yeah.
So in the initial years, I heard Mel say in one of his webinars that, I coached anything moving. And I loved that.
Yeah, I remember that.
That how typically, broad-based a coach should be. I know there are no rules to it, but
Yeah. I would say, just give yourself that experience, right? Like, again, I go back to medical school. You don't get to pick the patients who come into ER or wherever you're being a resident, right? You work with all sorts. So, and we are also in the human support business. Yeah. So the kind of experience that you get in working with a range of people is immense. So you may not want to even market it. You may not even want to talk about it, but do it, right? If there is, let's say, an opportunity to coach, two teens who are getting into college and not very sure, take that opportunity. That's an opportunity for a coaching conversation. And this is not to say that, and that's the other thing, right? Early years, I've heard the saying, they do everything pro bono. No, you don't have to. You can still put a value to it, right? Because at the end of the day, you are providing service. You are investing your time. You don't have to do it free. But all I'm saying is value is one side, but the range of clients that you work with can definitely build you. I do that even today in my practice, Satyam and Sunil. A certain percentage of my clients are very, very unconventional clients. And while, of course, I feel very authentic and, happy about the value that I provide, it's also great value that they are providing to me.
Absolutely. Because
you can get extremely insular otherwise. And you don't want that. So just building on that, Satyam, coach, but, don't make the mistake of thinking that everything can be solved with a coaching conversation. I don't think it can. You need to choose. If there's some other kind of response required, and, even if the person wants to be coached, I think stay away from that. But I think apart from that, if there are opportunities that come your way, really build yourself. I mean, I actually call this first 2 years, right? 2 to 3 years, an extended honeymoon period. Okay. You can make mistakes. You always have the thing, right? To say, oh, but I just started as a coach. Yeah. People are going to be nice to you and all that's going to happen. So I call it an extended period before really the real deal starts. Okay. So I would say 2.5 years. You can do all of that. But at some point, without pressurizing yourself, start building a small practice. It can be with 1 or 2 clients, doesn't matter. And that's also then takes me back to the point of financial freedom, right? A lot of people actually, I don't know, again, sometimes you're lured saying, hey, you can make 6 figures and this and that, and the day you finish, you will be doing all this. That's really not right. And I think in any profession, it takes time. Of course, there are a few lucky ones who strike gold from the first strike, but I would say that's not the case for the majority. So it is very good, at least for the first 1.5 years, or I would even say 2 years, not to look for a steady revenue from this profession. You're going to be setting yourself up for a huge amount of pressure. And I say this for a lot of people who working and then have got the credentials. At some point, they want to transition. I think at that point, when you're thinking of the transition, please think of your financial security before you jump in. You don't want that making you shortchange yourself, coaching at rates that, that just don't do any justice to who you are as a coach, right? And that pressure is real because people, whether it's, organizations or, agents or whatever, right? I mean, whoever in the ecosystem is contracting, they know that you've not made your mark. So they will try to beat you down on rates. But I think it's very important to know where you stand, which means that you'll have to say no a couple of times. Yeah, you don't have to be a stubborn yes, saying no, this is my fee and I will not budge even by a rupee. But I think it's very important to know your basic denominator and hold that respectfully, for which I think you need a certain financial stability before you jump in.
Amazing. So many things, Viji, so many things that you touched upon with one single question.
That's what our clients do, right? You ask them one question and boom, their whole life story is out. Yeah. So you also mentioned niche, Satyam. We can talk about that as well. And maybe just one opening thought on that, which is, I don't think it's a clear yes or no question. I also think it's about choice, right? About who you are as a person. There are some people who just don't want to be boxed in. Like, for example, Sunil, I was just about to say that. And I said, no, I'm not going to put that out publicly, but he raised his hand. So I can't imagine Sunil being somebody who's just doing one thing. I mean, so it gets very difficult for such people to naturally pick. But there are some people who are very comfortable saying, I will, for example, work only with, working mothers. And that's fine. That's a choice you can make. But even if you choose to do that, I think be very clear that is because sometimes what happens is when you make a niche and put it out there publicly and you keep changing it, it kind of weakens your own equity. And we've all seen this with LinkedIn, right? I mean, I don't know if you noticed. There are people who would change their headline like every week. And that's okay. That's your choice. But imagine the message that it gives out, right? Once you are an empowerment coach, and then you're the business coach. Thirdly, you're some other coach. Yeah, you can do it once a year, maybe once in a couple of years. It's okay to do a refresh. It's okay to change your strategy. But, in this coaching space, it's not one of those things where people are buying immediately, right? It's like building a home. When you are a builder, you are a brand, a home brand. You are actually engaging with people through different life stages. And at some point when the customer is ready, they will remember you and then come and make that purchase with you. So coaching is a bit like that. It's not that, the cycles are long. There are some people you engage with today, they'll come back to you 2 years later. So I think that consistency is important without, I think, feeling a lack of freedom, right? I mean, of course, at the end of the day, if you want to, if I don't want to call myself an MCC, I should have that freedom to do so, right? I can't be so bound by the image I've created for myself. But I think it's also important to look at it from a customer lens. So niches, pick them carefully. Pick them when while people talk a lot about, identify niches based on what people want and things like that, it also should be based on who you are and what is it that you can actually authentically bring to the table. And what would you like to be known as?
Yeah. And Viji, does it start from day one that you decide what your niche is? Because that's the first question that people ask me as soon as I introduce myself, saying, "What's your niche?" And I say, "I'm a nicheless guy." And
So
they
when
are
you mean people, who
surprised.
are you meaning, Sunil?
Sorry, coaches. So coaches
Coaches, yeah.
basically have
Have
that
any
inbuilt
client ever
pressure.
asked you that? See,
No,
that's the thing, right? Clients don't really care. No? What they do care, that they will do their due diligence and check on you. Suppose you say, I am a coach for CEOs. The first question they will say is,
how
or
many
at least,
CEOs?
some point the question will come, so who might you have coached? And then if you have nothing much to say, you can still say, right? I mean, I was a very successful CEO, and so I want to coach CEOs. That's fine. That's fine. But you should have some kind of answer, or to say that, I've never worked in corporate, so I want to work, whatever it is, right? You got to have your answer. Clients will ask you that. Clients are not really bothered about your visiting card.
Mm, true.
Clients want to know what you can do for them. So one of the things I actually put out quite, what's the word, proactively in my early stage contracting conversations is to say that, yes, I am a successful coach. I'm very proud of myself, whatever, right? I mean, I'm quite confident about myself as a coach, but I may not be the coach for you. So that's for you to decide. And while that sounds, a little suicidal because you're actually putting the doubt into the person's head, I think that's the right thing to do because you may not be the coach for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many layers that you sort of, put in this particular space. One is the niche aspect, the other is 2.5 years of honeymoon period. So maybe some of it really was advice I would have liked to before I jumped fully into this. So I was never told about the river, and I was just jumped said it's a swimming pool, and I went in, I figured out it's a full raging river, and over a course of time, I have figured out saying, "Hey, this works for me, this doesn't work for me." So I've also seen coaches don't give themselves that space to settle in, which so that's where maybe just before we check in with Jyoti, one question I have is if you had to revisit how you started as a coach yourself, would there be anything that you would do differently from the way you started to where you are now?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Uh, I think, yeah, I probably would have done what you just mentioned, though I think I was uh, largely acknowledging of my own self. But I think I would have given myself even that little bit of um, what's the word? I mean, not pressure. I don't know whether you all have realized, but there is, even in coaching communities, right? And I don't mean any one community. There's a sort of peer pressure that's there. People getting credentials, people going for this conference, people doing that workshop, people talking about client testimonials. And it's so easy to get sucked into that kind of pressure, even as adults. Um, so for me, while I think, that was not so much of an issue, I think what I would have probably said to my younger coach self, and if I could go back, is just trust your gut. If you feel, I mean, I always knew inside me that I could hold difficult conversations very well. that was one of my strengths. And I think I wrote about it somewhere recently that the more messy it is, I tend to actually, the best of me actually comes out. So, a little bit of resilience or whatever, right? But I mean, obviously it's not my battle, it's the client's battle. But also what one thinks is some of these high stakes, some of these very complicated, messy conversations is something that you do when you're much more experienced, when you've, risen up the coaching ladder or whatever. But I think probably, I could have listened more to my own voice and said, jump in and, take it. It's okay. Right. I mean, you don't have to have been MCC or anything of that sort for me to be able to now I say it with a lot more confidence. I mean, not overconfidence, confidence to say that, yeah, I mean, like what, I mean, Mel said it differently, but for me, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, who you are, as long as authentically the space is for coaching, I will be able to come and coach you. Okay. But I think that while it's confidence that's built over time, I think I could have trusted myself a little bit more and did stuff, even if it was against the tide, even if it was counterintuitive, even if it was not really practiced in the industry.
That gives me a lot of confidence. Thank you for saying that. And
So being
Jyoti,
nicheless, if it feels right for you, Sunil, maybe it is right for you.
so we have a question on the chat, and also Jyoti has put her hand up for quite some time,
Yes,
and
Jyoti,
Prem
please go
also.
ahead.
So I'll go to them and come back to Viji.
That's okay, Sunil. Those are virtual hands, so my hands are not really hurting. Thank you very much. Viji, I think I'll just combine 2, 3 questions together so that you can answer them. Maybe they'll be overlapping each other. So it's better if I just put them together. I just heard you mentioning about a book. Have you written any book on coaching?
Have I written?
Yeah.
No,
I
I'm
think.
not. I was writing, so I write some, blogs and I do some
So Viji,
content.
this is the universe telling you to write a book.
No, but I was just like checking while I was talking to you. I was checking out for you on LinkedIn, and I couldn't find you there.
You couldn't find me there? Okay.
I couldn't find you there. So maybe I'll go through Sunil's common contacts and find out. Anyways,
Yeah.
now my
Okay.
questions here are stand that, whereas we're doing a lot of peer coaching, like I coached Asha. I don't know who else from here I've coached. Sunil, of course, we've had sessions with him. But anyways, whoever you in our peer, if you are coaching in those 8 competencies and the markers, we know that we have to remain the limits and we know exactly what we have to ask first. And the other party, also the coachee, whoever is pretending to be the coachee, also knows, okay, the next question coming to me is this. Okay, now let me just show that, okay, I just got it by talking to you, Suddenly struck me. There's a little bit of drama we throw in also, and we also aware of timings. But
Yeah.
in real life coaching, when I have got some real life, I've not really started paid coaching as yet. But in real life coaching, when I get some other friends, they don't know timing structure. They don't know that they're supposed to show a shift in their body language, or they don't understand the language of coaching. And that's the challenging part. So I feel at times, this 500 hours that we need to complete for ICF, is more challenging if we do it in real life coaching than to peer coaching. Of course, in between peer-to-peer coaching is very good because it helps you remember your competence and the order that you have to go through. And at times, when I'm doing like real life coaching, you have to do a little bit of active pushing into action. I hope you know what I mean. I'm not trying to advise them, of course, we try to advise them also, but somehow you have to push them into action because they're just not ready to open up. So is that okay? Because ICF rule does not allow you, I think, that. How fair enough is that? I'm putting 2, 3 questions together, okay?
Yeah.
And then I had this experience that when I do a discovery call with a new client, I'm not talking about peer coaching here, that they already get their answers because as per if I do those ICF process of discovery call, the client gets the answers there and then. Oh wow, I'm feeling so wonderful. And then I say, okay, get back to me. But they've already got the answer. So I think I personally felt that maybe at a discovery call, I should just tell them exactly what life coaching is about. But that is not what is taught to us. But in my personal experience, I don't know if you're allowed to change that. That I would rather tell them what they understand them, let them know till what level the problem is, but not start giving them like, okay, what can you do about it? And just further the later competencies and solve the issues. That do you feel better now? So these are just
Yeah.
a few of the questions that are coming to my mind.
Thanks, Jyoti. I hope I can, answer
I'm
all of
sorry
them.
for the Pandora of
No,
questions.
that
What
is
would you like
totally
to know?
fine and lovely, lovely questions, all of them. And if I don't answer any of them, bring them back. So first of all, thank you for the feedback on LinkedIn. I must check where am I on LinkedIn? Where's that person gone?
No, I
Because
must have messed up somewhere. My
that's
phone is
fine.
messed up. Yeah.
It's always good, right? it's
Don't worry, I'll find you.
it's
Find you.
good to know because I mean, LinkedIn is probably my touch point. I must say that LinkedIn works really well for me. I get a lot of my coaching requests from there, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether I've done some, what algorithm I've used, but I think it's worked well. So coming to your first question, right? So there are two ways of doing hours, okay? And I'm being very, very candid here with everyone. Now, technically, you can play to the rules. Yeah, you can do paid coaching, and barter coaching also counts. So that's how pure coaching gets justified. Pure coaching has its place. Okay, I'm not going to water that down, because pure coaching, when actually, you know what? I have found that when there's a coach who's sitting in the client's shoe, it's actually far tougher. Because sometimes they act very smart. Yeah, they're kind of jumping two steps. They know all the answers. They know how to play along, but it shows. So it is very hard, actually. But I think the good thing is, you'll also get some clients like that, right? Who right from day one are not going to trust you, not going to trust the process. So along with getting value for their money, they are also expecting you to prove yourself every single session, every part of the program, right?
Absolutely.
And then they realize what a mess it is, because at the end of the day, it's they're spending the money, you're not. Yeah. So I think it's okay to have peer coaching. So it's one thing to do hours for the record. Yeah, the 100, 500, whatever it is. And you can finish. But remember, what is it going to leave you with? How much client experience, real clients, working with real emotions, working with real messy situations, working with people who don't, as you rightly said, understand the coaching language. So I would strongly urge, at least, if not 60, 40%, please work with real clients. And again, you have a range of clients. Yeah, you can even work with a young adult. You can work with an older person. You can work with anybody. You can work in a local language. You don't have to work in English. So I think these are the real things. So even if it takes time, for people to trust you and have that conversation, I think please, because if you don't build at this stage in the honeymoon period, you're going to be, having to fill up gaps later, once you actually set up your practice and you're running. Okay. So in fact, I think real world coaching, Jyoti, is about the latter that you spoke about. Yeah. People who will not understand, coaching, people who will, not even use some of the, you ask questions like sometimes when you say, what's showing up for you, right? There was a showing where, what?
Exactly.
And these are all things that we get so used to, right, in a coaching kind of space. I mean, there are lingos that we just use without even realizing what we are talking. Okay. And, sometimes, this thing about asking for meaning, right? There are some things that are so simplistically understood. You don't go and ask for meaning for that. I feel a lot of pain. Yeah. So you ask a question like, so what does pain mean to you? The client is going to be mad at you. Okay. That if you can't understand pain, right, why the hell are you coaching? So I'm saying we fall into these traps sometimes, and coaches will play along. Okay. Because also remember, we're peers. They want to be nice to you at some level. So even the most critical of them will actually play along. So even if you look at ICF recordings, the recording that you submit, and people are not going to go through this ACTP and other such routes where you have to give a recording. It has to be a recording with a real client you worked with. And it doesn't say it can't be a coach, but it cannot be a one-off standalone session. Yeah, somebody where you're in an active partnership with. And there's a reason, because partnership coaching over a period of time is like how real coaching is. Not a one-off, okay? Today I do a session with X, tomorrow I do a session. That's all good for practice, but I think that's not real world coaching. So recently so I've been involved with running a reciprocal coaching program that, I had conceived of a couple of years ago. One of the premises of that program is you don't change partners. You work with the same coach for like 8 months, 6 months. Yeah, because that's how real world coaching is going to be. So one session will go well, one session won't go well. And every time they're not going to bring a new topic for you. And that's the other thing, right? Coaches, we have this wonderful way. We are creative, aren't we? Because we're coaches, we will come out with lovely topics. And that's not going to work. So I think, Jyoti, if you can work with more real world clients, even though it doesn't fall, they don't understand our timing. For example, a thing like timing, right? You can very well say, I have an hour today for you. And you can draw that boundary very carefully at the start. You don't have to say that, 1 hour is a prescribed time by, somebody coaching happens for 1 hour. You can say that is your time available and they're going to respect you for it, right? And I firmly believe there's no language like coaching language. In fact, we shouldn't get into that trap. So one of the things that really I love doing is to coach in vernacular, because when you coach in your mother tongue or some other language, which is not a business language, you use more real, grounded, I think, honest words, which is how real clients will be, right? Most clients think in their mother tongue. So you should give them that space. So nowadays, if you see, which is I never thought a day would come, but I do a lot of coaching in English because most of my clients, are Hindi speaking. And it's funny because, Hindi is not my mother tongue, but I can speak, pretty good Hindi. But I don't think in that, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic for me. I'm learning, and I let myself go. It's okay. It's okay if you're working with a CEO, right? Some of the rawest emotions come in the mother tongue. So what I'm saying is the real conversations will be messy. They will not fit into some kind of, nice mold. And that's okay. Yeah. And, you were mentioning something about coach training, right? The discovery calls. Now, discovery calls, the way I understand it, and again, to the best of my knowledge, there is no ICF mandate or, expectation for a discovery call. And it's really what we want to do in that call. Some people call it chemistry, some people call it discovery, whatever that may mean. And I don't think it is a sampler session. Yeah, there's a difference between doing a sampler session and doing a discovery call. A discovery call, the way I understand it, and a chemistry call is like, it's like going out on a first date. Yeah. So there needs to be that, discovery, that excitement, that, yeah, sure, you can put on a little bit more of makeup, you can do all that stuff. But it has to be an honest conversation that's going to allow you to decide, are you going to date again or no? Yeah. It's not about, giving a person a preview into how the coaching. So that's different, right? Suppose you want somebody says, you know what, I don't understand how coaching works. Please don't call that a discovery session. Actually tell them, I will offer one session for you pro bono. Bring any one topic that you want to work on, and I will, give you an experience of what coaching is. But discovery is knowing about that person, their values, their interests, knowing them as people, they knowing you.
One of the connection bit.
Yeah. You're building, right? I mean, because ultimately most clients at least pay 20% advance. Most things I don't start off like that. So how are they going to commit their money to you? So that is what a discovery call is all about. Conditions, bit of contracting, whatever you want to do. You don't have to stinge on it. It can still be 60 minutes, but it's not a sampler session. And you're right, because if somebody is going to come there and they have, micro topic and they get the answers, they're not going to come back to you. I'm not saying do not offer people an experience of coaching. Please do that. But I don't think we should be mixing up discovery, chemistry, and giving a sampler session. And if you can't do it, there are a lot of forums that do pro bono coaching, right? I mean, for example, a collective that I've been part of for the last couple of years, we actually, the only thing we do is pro bono coaching. So just send them to a place like that. If you don't want to do it, right? Let them go experience the, the power of coaching, or send them to a chapter event, or send them somewhere, right, where this is happening.
Well,
Or
it's called collectives.
I mean, the one I'm part of is
Interesting.
Coaches for You. So we started off as a pandemic movement to support people through coaching, and the last 4 years we've done it all pro bono. There's not a single rupee that gets charged for people. And
Awesome.
that has a very different purpose, right? I mean, it's about saying let's kind of make coaching access possible. Money should not be a barrier and things like that. So I think different philosophy. So I think there are places to point people to. You don't want to do it yourself. Sometimes I do that. If I don't have it, I would say, why don't you go and, I mean, you can sign up here. There is a pro bono coaching event happening. Go sign up here. You can, work with some coach. And I have the confidence that, I mean, this fear will always be there, right? Somebody else does the sampler, they're going to go with that coach. They're not going to come to me. This is a very human concern. But the point is, they anyway have that choice. So if they are meant to be with you, they want to work with you, they'll come back. I actually had one client, and this is interesting, I want to share, who, after chemistry, everything went very well. Wrote back saying that, I mean, didn't write back. The sponsor wrote back saying this person actually preferred another coach because that coach promised to use, Hogan or something like that, right? I said, yeah, good call, because I'm not going to use Hogan, even if you give me 2x. So all the best, I mean, and I genuinely meant that, right? So it was a good time. I didn't want to hard sell myself. I didn't want to shortchange myself, because it's not going to work, because that's not going to work with me and the clients also. And I was very happy the client made that choice. Now, within 2 weeks, I get a call back from the sponsor saying, you know what, this person realized that beyond Hogan, they don't have a good sense with this coach. I said, okay. And I said, so, do you want me to give you references? I can do that, of Hogan practitioners. I know friends who do that. And they said, no, they want to work with you. Will you take them again? I was like, yeah, I thought about it, and I said, this should not be from a sense of lack of agency. And I said, I'll take them, but I want to have another conversation. Yeah, this time I'm going to insist on the discovery. And we had a very honest conversation. And, this person then realized that, maybe and they said, I really feel I need some external validation. I said, Hogan's not the only way to do it. If you want Hogan, we'll figure out. But, don't expect me to do it. I'm not going to do it. But we will figure out ways. And that can be one of the resources. We talk about resources, right, in our competencies. So we'll find out that resource as and when. But, let's move along. So we started off on the engagement because I also sensed authentic intent. I felt, yes, that worked well. Somebody who I think was aware enough to realize what they wanted, which is a very good starting point for coaching. And we worked through. And then 1 year of working, we didn't do even one psychometric. Okay. And it was one of the most amazing coaching experience, because I learned a lot. They learned a lot. So the point is, if it's meant to be with you, I think it will happen. Yeah.
Just to interject, this is possibly the only place where you can go on multiple dates with multiple persons.
And you should, right?
And what about the active coaching? Because you get clients, who are just very closed up. They don't open up. So you have to
So
really.
why would they sign up, Jyoti, if they are closed?
No,
Why
they're
would they sign up?
disturbed. They don't have people to talk to at home. Then they get to hear of life coaching. So, maybe, especially if they see on the net. There are lots of people, who are not like, I'm a very open person, as you can make out. I'm a very open person. I'm like an open book to everybody. But a lot of people, they've got it all hidden inside them.
Yeah.
They have problems in the house, and they're like, oh, what will my husband say if I say no? Because we've been, at least in my generation, we've always been taught everything else but self-love, self-respect, boundaries. All the things that we're taught in coaching now was something we've not been taught. Beyond that, we were taught hazard other things.
Yeah.
And now we're learning this. So our families, these people, they come from backgrounds like that. So when they come to real this world and they learn all this, they're scared of the families, that if they say no, or if they draw the line of self-respect, or,
Yeah.
boundaries, what will their husband react. So I always
Yeah.
tell them, of course, that, your self-respect is more better. I mean, are you going to be a people pleaser or you want to be? That would be my answer. But then you still have to push them in, like, I have to tell them that. Like recently when I coached Amber, so I just finally had to tell her that would you choose to be a people pleaser all your life as you've been doing all your life, or do you want to indulge in self-love? Example. That was my kind of just advising her, which I'm not sure goes with ICF rules or whatever.
Yeah. So the truth is we're all different. We all process pain very differently. Some of us are able to open our hearts. Some of us would be very guarded. We've been guarded all our lives. Right?
Yeah.
Even with our most intimate relationships, we are not ourselves. But you know what? I think any change from there or any evolution or any shift has to happen organically. And nobody, not even the best well-wishers can actually make it happen. So I think one of the things I've learned as a coach is the immense value of patience. Yeah. There are some people who will go through coaching engagement. In 10 months, there'll be no shifts, nothing. And I still think you got to be patient because you never know when that breakthrough will come. You never know when that
Absolutely.
internal realization, the light bulb will go off. And, I think we glorify things like these aha moments in every session that we waiting with eager, bated breath for when we do peer coaching and things like that. I think it's overrated. You can get through session after session with nothing, right? No shifts, no energy
Yeah.
shifts, you know.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the other thing, right? The beauty of coaching, as long as they make progress. Yeah. While we say that, and I say this to my clients always, the more open you can be, I have found that we can get a lot more value. But that's my perspective. Sometimes there will be clients about whom you will know none of the details. I once had a corporate client who, we worked for about 10 months. And, I mean, I think the engagement went well. They got what they wanted. And everything happened. But, I realized at the end of the engagement, I don't know any of the details of this person's life. So you can still not know the entire story. Unlike, let's say, what a doctor does, right? You need to know everything to get the right diagnosis. Sometimes you don't need to know any of the, I think the nitty-gritties, the turns, the twists, the story, and still enable forward progress. And that's where I say, we refer to this not knowing, right? The coach is not knowing and the competencies. That's what this is, being comfortable with knowing only half the story. And if we get into the story, some people will take forever to talk about the story, right? It can go for 3 years also. There's so much baggage they're carrying, so much pain they're carrying.
Yeah.
So it's that you may not even know them. So it may not be one of the most intimate relationships that has got built. And I must say that sometimes, you land up with very intimate relationships with your client in that sense, trust. So I still like the word trust and intimacy, though it's been changed with trust and safety. I think there's a place for intimacy. There's also a place for safety in coaching. It happens. But with a lot of people, it's not about you. And I think sometimes as coaches, we judge ourselves. Oh my God, I've not evoked trust. I've not done this. I don't feel safe enough. They're not trusting me. Maybe they don't even trust their most close relationships in their lives for them to
Yeah,
trust
trust
you. You are at
issues.
the end of the day a stranger. So, but as long as you can still work with them, you can still make progress, they can still get that support and value, and they come for the next session, that means that you are adding value. There is something happening. So I would say, please be patient with yourself. And this is for all of us, right? And be patient with the process and be patient with the client. People are different, and that's what makes our profession so exciting. No two clients will ever be the same.
I have had a couple of very good success stories. So that does keep me encouraged.
Viji
Amazing
and
success
Jyoti,
story.
just a quick check-in. We have 2 more questions and possibly another
I
14
know, that's
minutes
what I was
left.
just
Yeah,
about to say
and
that
I
Sunil
saw
actually
something in the
asked me
chat
to take
box
the whole session, and now I think
from
brains
Jissy,
hands might
right?
be hurting. So Prem has
Sorry.
been holding his hand up for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. And I
sorry,
think there's
Prem.
something from Jissy as well. Jissy, I've not read it, but maybe after
Yeah.
Prem, you can unmute and ask your question and we can talk about that. Yeah. Go ahead, Prem.
Okay.
Thanks, Jyoti, but happy for us to chat offline also at some point if
Yeah,
you'd
she'll find you on LinkedIn, by the way.
like.
I will definitely. By tonight itself, watch me get a message. Just wait for my message.
Go ahead.
So, Viji, you're not a stranger at all. I
Yeah, of
know
course.
we not have interacted in very close terms that way, but I do follow because I'm part of the ICF Chennai gang, and I am by nature very observe. I love to observe a lot rather than interact from my own, and I get a lot of lessons from that, a lot of coaching from that. So my question is pretty straight. I started with life, leadership, and everything, and all of that. But then I found that I was drifting without knowing into a niche. And that niche is, like you can see, I'm from the armed forces. So in that niche is a lot of armed forces officers at various stages of their career, they move into the corporate.
Mm.
So I got into coaching them on, how to prepare themselves for this transition.
Yeah.
And because they come from a profession which is a way of life
Yeah.
to a profession which they have to now choose, and environments are totally different. So
Yeah.
in this, if I use the coaching, like I'm now into my PCC, maybe by about 3-4 months I should get the PCC. What I've realized is that when you go niche, the entire coaching requirements of core competencies and all of that, ethics is fine. There is no doubts there. But at core competencies, I can't really follow it. I can't follow it because the armed forces officers are pretty straight. If you have dealt any of them, if you have spoken to them, they want the answers in yes or no. There's no black, there's no gray for them. And so some of the questions that they are exploring, I can't be thinking, what do you feel about it? What's your emotion there? They look at what a nut this guy is. He's asking me for emotions when I've been battling my life out there. So I have to give very straight answers, and that it could be a leading question, it could be a mentor. It tilts more towards mentoring. So my concern today is in the ICF, how do I take this forward? I know I can't justify going purely by the core competencies because my clients are going to ask questions or seeking for coaching that will not allow that, but will be more of a mentoring. But I don't see any mentoring as part of, if I want to move to the next level of MCC, will I be able to use mentoring as a medium or partially as a medium instead of pure coaching? So that's a question that I am.
Great question, Prem. And, please take what I say with, as one perspective. It's just my perspective, and, we can all interpret things. When ICF does the credential there is really on pure coaching. Okay. While, of course, I must also tell you, at an MCC level, if you really read some of those competencies very finely, there is a place for a mentoring moment. But I think that's a rare place, in the sense, sometimes you can stop and you qualify that and then you offer that. Okay. If it is in the service of forward progress for the client, and I would say that needs to be used with a lot of discretion. So you're not leading, you're not sort of taking away the resourcefulness of the client. Anything that takes away resourcefulness is something that is a no-no. Okay. So I would say, it seems to me that the practice that you're building is actually a mentoring and a coaching practice. It's some kind of a hybrid there. And while you may choose to do that, I think doing that for a credential is really something that I don't see, I don't think that's going to be entertained. Okay. So I want to offer you another thought here, that you might want to check out, the accreditations of other bodies such as EMCC. which don't really, at an accreditation level, don't really make a distinction between coaching and mentoring. The credential is awarded across.
Okay.
So you might want to do that, and you might want to study, because your work as a mentor also gets counted in the hours that you're building. And by definition, EMCC is a body that also is for mentoring and coaching.
Okay.
So you might want to consider that. But if you're choosing to go in the ICF route, then I think for purpose of credential, coaching will be your coaching as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's very honest. Thank you, Viji.
Jesse.
Hi, Lakshmi.
Yes.
Hello, finally I meet you after seeing all your LinkedIn posts.
Okay. I'll ask just only one, just for the time's sake.
Yeah.
Do the market differentiate between ACC and PCC credentials or not?
So again, right, I think the market is evolving. So if you ask me this, say 5-6 years ago, the differential wouldn't have been too stark. But I think from today, whatever I'm picking up in the market, certain requirements for proposals and things like that, I think a default place, right? Like for example, the markers, when we look at markers, there is a PCC marker, right? There's no ACC markers or MCC markers. Of course, the minimum standards document is available. So I would say it's a median benchmark, right? It's a safe place to peg. And from whatever I've understood from corporates, it seems like a safe place. If they ask me, for this kind of a profile, what do you think? I might say, or they might pick up saying that, okay, maybe seek out PCCs. Maybe also look at experienced ACCs. So I think, yes, there is a difference. But I don't think it's a strict black and white. It's not as if, it's not a distinction between being, an MBBS and an MD. I don't think it's that stark. Today, I don't know, so many medical examples, maybe because, I had a visit to the hospital in the morning. But yeah, so I don't think the distinction is that stark from a skilling level. But I think since people have choice, and I think since the pricing point is also all mixed up today, I have seen some ACCs charge more than PCCs, and I've seen some PCCs peg themselves much lower than ACCs. So all that is happening. Today, there's no guideline. So when people have the choice, then they say, okay, let me go with this, right? As a safe place to start. But I've also seen that sometimes what is not there by, let's say, one credential lower gets made up with experience, right? How many years has this person been coaching? What kind of a practice do they run? So that also contributes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So not necessarily the one is better than the other, but I think today people are aware. And why that? I mean, when I started off my serious practice, people would actually kind of, find it funny that somebody is even pursuing, or, what's an MCC, right? I mean, it sounded like a very weird thing. Today, I have proposals coming and people reaching out to me because I'm an MCC. Not everyone. I have still gone, and I must say, with, all transparency here, I have lost engagements to PCCs. Okay. And that's okay. Because like I said, it's about choice. And maybe that client did not want me for whatever reason, or, I was not the person, or the client preferred an industry veteran compared to me who had no idea of that industry. So people think differently. So then I couldn't really say that, I mean, is my MCC, immaterial? Of course not. Yeah. But I think at that point of time, it didn't really matter. People wouldn't look. But today, I think that's changing. People understand what's an MCC, or they may seek out necessarily somebody who's gone through, this kind of so many hours and whatever the requirements that may be. But it's not as if, so it's not linear, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
But thank
Which
you.
also possibly it also depends on who the market is, right?
Yeah.
If for example, I am going into this space, People who know me will prefer me because they know me and not any other credentialed coach. So it also depends on who your market is. Uh, and for me, I've always been aware of the idea that the corporate is not your only market.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So there is a huge space that there's nobody's playing in the playground where say possibly some of us are looking to play. So everybody is playing in one playground. So corporate. That's the thing that I keep seeing. So there could be other areas that we've not at all thought of.
Yeah, correct.
Mm.
So just to taking a deviation here. So Asha had a question. I'll just take Asha's and then possibly one last question. So you may need to spare us 5+ minutes, Viji.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Asha, go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Great to see you because it's such a moment, I would say. And so, Sunil, thanks for this space actually, because it's from a webinar, right, to getting this space. I think I already put my question out there.
Okay, sorry, I've not been looking at the chat box.
No worries. So how as a coaching profession, right, like post-pandemic, I mean, because when I got in, like I'm very new, so it's a very online space that I'm operating on. So is there an offline space and how it has been before? Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, offline versus offline, online, right? I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and my answer may be having limited experience, but and others can also add on here. But I really find the benefits of online, the kind of reduced costs. In fact, I find online a far more effective medium for coaching than offline, not just because of costs, but I think it's a far more effective medium for coaching. And again, this is a very different view because people say that there's nothing that replaces personal touch. Agreed. But I just find that in the coaching space, it's not just like having a cup of coffee with your best friend, right? It's a lot more. So I think that seriousness gets driven in when you are in a medium that's kind of isolated from everything else. So that's been my experience. So I feel today pretty much, and I can say this basis all my clients, largely corporates, I think the expectations have all shifted. So let's talk about today. I think 10 years before, online coaching you would really do if you're working with clients outside, in the West, or outside your country or something like that. And even let's say within India, you would travel down, or the client would travel to your place. Okay. But that was, when coaching was for a very select few at very certain levels of the organization. And, there was, I mean, imagine the kind of travel, if it gets added on, the cost of a session or the cost of a program, it goes up significantly. So I think people are aware. People have seen through the pandemic the efficiency of how well this can get delivered. So I think today the expectations have changed a lot. That, by default, most people are okay with virtual coaching. But I think there is a market at very, very, I would say bespoke, very high end, clients who may say that I still want my coach to be, very personally in my space. So that also is there, but I think that's more an exception. I think things are changing, and especially as the practice grows global, and a lot of us have international clients and things, it's practically not possible to do in-person sessions. So a lot of MNCs don't even expect that. What you might find, I find the offline, the appetite for it much more when you work with founders, you work with, entrepreneurs, right? And you're just working with that one person, that business owner or something like that, or that celebrity, where they actually may prefer you to still come in offline. But I think it's a narrow set of people who want that. So I think certainly that shifted. Yeah. Earlier it used to be.
No, because how was it before? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. There used to be a lot of offline stuff. But then there was also a time when coaching was kind of less known and less accessed by the common people, by all parts of the organization. So I think all that is changing.
So the pandemic, one of the good things of the pandemic.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think people learn to experiment, people learn to do that. So the other thing is, even now, see, I'll tell you, the people who still want it, only say it because they feel that what they're going to talk is so confidential. They don't, something is missing in the trust equation, right? saying that I don't feel safe doing this whole thing, across a computer. So then the challenge is to say, how do I build that trust? Okay, that's really the reason. There cannot be any other reason. Something fundamentally is missing. So I think it's more about thinking, what's missing? What's this person not getting? So I recently had one such an engagement where, I tried everything, right? I said, your costs are going to go up 2x, and, why do you want to do this? And, what's the deal? Finally, I understood that this comes from a far deeper, value system, which said that, the most important or critical of conversations are held face to face. Here's a person who won't even use email to do certain things, right? So you pick up the phone and resolve issues. So it's nothing to do with coaching. So I think it's maybe sometimes the way people are. So even now there are people who will ask you, those requests come in. I think it's about understanding and dealing with them in a certain way. For example, right? If you do offline coaching, where would you do it? You do it in a coffee shop, you do it in a office, your office, right? And all these are not safe spaces. What if the client breaks down? What if the client, wants to imagine how awkward it could be for everyone? For them mainly, right? So that is my reason. And obviously I cannot tell them that, saying that, hey, you may be, breaking down, nobody wants to get in. This is not, it's not supposed to be like that, but it happens. So it's all about creating safety.
Thanks for that, Lakshmi. I think that's a great share. So probably on the same lines, right? The second question is about trust. So when we do a virtual session, right? As a non-verbal communication, in your experience, what are some do not do's or don't do it or real bad in an online session?
Don't do by the coach?
Yeah, by the coach.
Okay. I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, I think one of the don't do's, shut WhatsApp. Okay. And I still find, especially web notifications, it's just so annoying. And, I was a bit embarrassed at the start of the session. I thought I usually turn off, all my devices and my phone rang. So I'm still reeling under that embarrassment that, in this conversation, my phone rang. But just saying. So I think, and I'm not making light of it, right? I think we're all so distracted, that we forget. We things like WhatsApp have become part of our regular existence, right? We don't usually shut that off. So I think minimizing all that, because you don't know what can distract you. And I think I wrote recently somewhere that rather than the don'ts, let me talk about the do's. I think the importance of a nice, comfortable, inspiring space has been so underrated. The space is so important. So even if you're working, doing your session offline, don't be sloppy about it in any way. And sloppiness could mean different things for different people, right? For some people, it could be dressing in a certain way. For some people, it could be having a neat desk. For some people, it could be having hydration, having your cup of tea with you, whatever that may mean, right? So, play your A game when you really come into coach. Even if you may be, wearing your, doing barefoot and wearing your comfort clothes, it's okay. So I think do that because it gets picked up. Second thing is minimize distractions of all sorts. And I think the third thing that, I'm wondering how to put this across. So even in a virtual medium, right? Anything that makes the client uncomfortable. So, for example, sometimes we're trained as coaches to observe everything very carefully, to not miss even that little murmur, little silence, little, something. But, that's very intimidating. And you don't, the client really should not be getting the feeling that they're under the radar, right? They're not a subject and you are not, examining them under the microscope. And we do that. We don't do it out of any bad intent, but we want to be of greatest service, right? So the competencies share. Notice the smallest shifts in the energy and everything, right? You're not getting marked on your competencies for, please, I think it's important to remember that, though we don't go off. So missing important things, like genuinely the client is, coughing continuously. If you don't at that point say that, are you okay? Are you having a bad throat? Now that is a terrible thing to do. But, every little thing, oh, you coughed. So, are you talking about something? Is there something troubling you? Nothing. Yeah, the guy was just clearing his throat. Okay. So I think we need to be more human about it. And put ourselves in that shoe, saying that whatever makes the client uncomfortable, don't. So I had this one client who would take a lot of time to reflect. So I would actually do something which you generally don't do with body language, right? You look people in the eye when you talk. But I realized this person felt uncomfortable. So when this person was thinking, I would always look away. Always.
Interesting.
Yeah. And because I realized they just wanted that space to think. So imagine if you're thinking and somebody's just looking at you like that, right? It's odd. It's so uncomfortable. So sometimes I even go off camera. Of course, having contracted. Right? I realize, and I even suggest saying that you realize sometimes somebody is in a very disturbed space. They actually don't want to turn on video. Your contract says you should be on video. Then you be humanistic and you tell them, please turn off your video. I sense some discomfort at your end, and they'll happily say yes, I'll turn it off. So that's your clue, right? So be clued into those things, and I think that's what I would say. Whatever makes the client feel uncomfortable is a strict no-no, even if it means that you're doing the right thing according to what we have learned as coaches.
Thank you so much. And you are an inspiration for sure. And thanks everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you, Asha.
So Viji, Asha had a fan moment today, so she's going to always forever thank me for that. So
yeah, but please take everything I say with a pinch of salt. Some of you who know me here in this forum know that I kind of take a little bit of a contra view on things. So
very honest shares, I would say, not like kind of one-sided, very marketing like it was not there. So more beyond, I think the authenticity is also honesty, a lot of honesty.
Thank you, Asha. I have nothing to market. I don't do coach training. I don't do anything. So, coaches I wouldn't market with.
So we're at 5:53. How many more minutes do you have left?
For 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. I have something at 6. So yeah.
Okay. So I think maybe I had a question, but I let that go. Maybe I will ask a question. So when next can we have you as a guest at our space at our home? So that's the question I leave you with, and maybe Shri, if you can just write your question, I'll ask Viji to reply.
So our coffee is pending as well, right?
Yes.
So Sunil, I would like a copy of this chat if you don't mind, because I've not looked. I've just gone so into the questions and reflecting and thinking that I've not looked at anything.
Yes, I will do that. I will do that for you.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe one possible question, I don't know, for all of us to think is I think I saw it in somebody's WhatsApp, Shamik was saying, is there a space for humor in coaching? I just leave that with leave it for all of us to think, and maybe for Viji to answer.
Yeah. So I think absolutely. If humor is your strength, like some coaches I know, please use it. I mean, because who doesn't like humor? I think great insights, the most serious of conversations happen well with a little bit of lightness. It's not about being flippant. It's not about telling your client, hey, come on, it's okay, get over it, or, overcome it, or don't overthink. It's not about making light of the client, but about creating a space for lightness, whatever that may mean, depending on your level of, I would just say, keep 3 things in mind: the trust that you have, the liberty that you can take, and the cultural context. Yeah. Sometimes you need to be respectful of things like gender, like things like even terminology, language, and things. Be aware of that. As long as it cuts well, please be your authentic, humorous self. It's all right. It's all right to have a lighter moment. Lightness and laughter are very important in coaching. Because it's not really nice to keep on discussing very serious stuff, right? Imagine even in your home front or something, you want somebody to break it. You want a little bit of relief, and then you can both come back, figure it out, pick up the pieces. So I would say absolutely. I think it's okay. And for that, to be able to do that, I would say, while we do very serious business, and those who know me well can say, I'm very serious in my craft. For me, work has always been a form of worship. And I take that very seriously. But I think there's a difference. It's okay to take your work very seriously, but don't take yourself so seriously. Right? There's space for lightness and humor when you don't take yourself so seriously. But take your work seriously. You are an instrument through which your work is showing up in the universe. So let that work do all the serious, heavy lifting. And, you walk lightly. You travel lightly. Travel light, because many of us, I think generally, we have about 3 decades of coaching, right, in this profession. It's possible. You traveling light is always a good thing to do. That doesn't mean that you're not serious about your work. Be damn serious about it. Excellence, I think, is a great value to strive for. I think it's one of the ICF values as well. So I'd say that. And Sunil, you asked me another question. Rather, you mentioned something in the beginning, and I just want to, it's been playing on my mind. You said, some of us, we really didn't have, those things. We had to jump in, we had to swim. I get it. I hear you. I've also had that experience. Sometimes I wish I had somebody who showed me the way, or, pulled me up and things like that. But you know what? When I look back, I feel, while I think there is a space for good mentors, for good friends, for good community, for everything, at the end of the day, there's also a place for falling, for learning, for figuring it out on your own. So while I think we can take everybody's story, writing your own story also means you go through the pain points. So make some mistakes, let there be some blunders. As long as you don't kill someone or do something unethical, it's all right. If you feel, I've actually wanted to do this once in my early stages with one of my clients. I actually felt I did a terrible job. I wanted to refund that entire fee. My conscience was really hurting me so much. So I would even say do that, but make mistakes. Don't play it safe. Right? It's all right. As the world judges you, there'll be 10 other clients who'll judge you differently. Finally, I didn't refund the money, by the way, though I kind of hinted to it to my client, and I was secretly happy that they didn't kind of take it. But yeah, but I did hint, and I just said, do you think that you got some value from this money that you put in? And I was quite surprised at the answer. But yeah, that was a terrible, experience for me. I had failed in my own eyes. Yeah.
Amazing, Vijay. I don't know, how many ever thanks I have to tell all of us here to have made it here, and for TOC to happen for a year, and for Vijay to come here. A lot of things have been set in motion. And Vijay, I think once again, thank you for all your time, all your grace, your humor, your authenticity, your you know, you just showing up here, you playing at full potential. All
Thank you for
that
that.
being put at this place. I have a small space of saying this thank you.
Wow.
And I'm just respecting your time at 6 o'clock, and just letting you know it's another. I'd love to host you for another podcast, a series of podcasts whenever that
Yeah,
happens.
let's do that. Happy to always come back, happy to learn together. Fantastic questions, and thank you so much, because this is reflective practice, right? There's another way of reflective practice, asking the right questions, and enabling. So thank you for enabling me to think today. Some questions were so provocative that I'm definitely going to mull over it after the session as well. So Sunil, please do send me the chat recording if possible. I would love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Please stay in touch if you're not connected with me or something. Happy to be in touch on LinkedIn. And if there's any support I can offer to any of you in any way, don't hesitate to ask. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Viji. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.